Welcome to K&C Crafts. Today we are doing another hat. This process is going to be a little bit different than the other hats we have made. This one's a little fancier. There's a lot more parts to it and it will take a little while longer to make. First I'm going to tell you what you need, and then I will show you kind of what we have in mind for this hat. Okay, so you will need a bottle lid, a milk jug lid, Gatorade, Powerade, all those lids work too. Something, as long as it's just a little bigger than the bottle cap. You also need scraps of fabric, a scrap of lace, a scrap of cardboard, needle and thread, scissors, glue gun, some ribbon, flowers if you want to add flowers, some small roses, and you're going to need some roses that will fit inside your bottle lid. You'll also need either beads or jewels or whatever you want to use to decorate the outside of the hat with. You'll see that later on in the video. Some of these steps are optional. It just depends on how fancy you want your hat. Okay, so I'm going to show you where this idea came from. My daughter bought this hat from Temu. It's actually a teacup hat, which is really cool. It's really fancy. But there's clips on the other side to put in her hair. And it's really cute. Has a rose there in the center with the lace. And the jewels on the side. And the rickrack and stuff on it. Beads. Lots of fanciness there. So she wanted to make a miniature one kind of like that. And we made a couple prototypes without all the fanciness on it, and they still look pretty fancy. Just we may come back later and decorate these with beads and stuff, jewels, but this is kind of what we're going to do with this video. There are quite a few steps, but we're going to start with the basics and just create the main part of the hat first. For the main part of the hat, we're going to need your bottle cap, your milk jug lid, a 2 1/4 inch circle cut from cardboard, a 3-inch fabric circle, a 3 1/2 inch fabric circle, and a 4-inch fabric circle. Okay, so your first step is to take this 3-inch circle and you want to turn it over to the inside, and I've already marked this, but you take your cardboard circle and you use it on the center of that fabric circle, and you just take your pencil and draw around to make a light line so you can see where that line is on this piece. And then you want to take your scissors and you want to cut in toward that line, but stop at the line. Don't go any further than the line. Just cut slits all around the circle. Until you get back around to where you already cut. Then take your needle and thread and you want to start from the underside and sew with your running stitch around that penciled in circle. You just keep going around until you get to the end. Okay, so when you get that sewn, do not knot it yet. You want to take your bottle lid and your glue gun, and you want to do this step fairly quickly because you don't want the glue to start hardening inside the lid before you get the cloth glued down. So you want to take and put a ring of glue around the sides inside the lid. Please be careful because glue guns do get hot, and so does the glue that comes out of them. I burn myself pretty much every time I try to do this. So and then grab your thread and pull it tight. I usually have something to help hold that, and you want to start pushing in those edges of the cloth down into the glue. Once you get it part of the way in there, or mostly in there, you can take and knot your thread. Basically, you could probably just cut it off because it's just sewn to help pleat the fabric on top, because we found that it was very difficult to put those edges down in there without having the pleats already there. It just wanted to get messy, and some of the pleats didn't want to stay down where they needed to be. So we decided to sew it, and here I'm just adding a little glue to the pieces that are still sticking up underneath and pressing them down with the glue gun to keep from burning myself. And this will be the very top of your hat. Instead of going like this, like the other hats do, it will be going up. So that's why we needed to push those down in there. We're going to be adding some detail inside the lid, the rows and the lace and stuff. Okay, then you want to take your needle and thread and go ahead and sew your second fabric circle around with the running stitch, just like you did the other one. Only you don't slit this one, you just basically sew around the edges a little closer to the edge than the previous piece. You want to turn the fabric till the side you want on the outside is out on the outside. Okay, so then you want to take the milk jug lid and you want to put it inside the cloth and then pull it tight. and knot it. And cut that off. And this will be the part that goes right underneath your top part. And then you take your last piece of fabric and you sew around it with your running stitch the same way you just did the other two pieces. Again, closer to the edge than the first piece. We do have some more we are working on that once we get finished with them, we will show what those look like also, probably at the end of this video. Okay, same thing with the other piece. You turn it right side out, and then you take your cardboard circle, place it in the center, and tighten the string. And you knot it. And you cut that off. And that will be your base. Now that we've finished all our pieces, it's time to decorate. But before we decorate, I did want to mention that there are a couple other options. You can just attach that bottom lid to the base and make a smaller hat. Or you can attach the three pieces together and add your rose in the center of the lid and have it a semi-decorated hat. Or you can turn that lid upside down and have it be a somewhat taller hat. But we're going to decorate it. As I do this, we're going to take one level at a time and go from there, because you can take the decorating options and do your own mix according to how you want your hat to look. Before we do that, let me show you some of the hats we've already made and are in the process of making. Okay, just so you can get an idea of the various ways you can decorate them. These 5 here are finished. I did order some trim from Amazon, and this is that trim. I also ordered some bead trim, and that's what I have on here, is the bead and the other trim. This one I just used ribbon, more ribbon, and this one I used twine to finish it out. Another ribbon one, and I added jewels to the side of this one. This one I did add some of the bead trim, but I used ribbon on the top to pull that together. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. These here, I don't have lids for the middle section yet, so what I did is we've worked on doing the bases and the top section, and these top sections in this row are finished. They have the ribbon and the rose inside, and the trim that we used around the top, and also a ribbon on the base. These are not attached yet. These have the ribbon inside attached, but the flowers are not attached. We do have a ribbon on the bases, so those are ready to finish as soon as we get more lids for the middle section. I wanted to show you how cute these would be to just glue them together and stop with that. And it would be cute also to add a little handle for a teacup like her hat. If you remember, her hat has that handle right here. So it would be cute to add a little handle on these and just go with that. Or at least I think they would. So I'm going to set these to the side, and we're going to get started decorating this top section on this one. Okay, so your first step to decorate is to take a piece of ribbon. If your ribbon is too wide, you may want to cut it in half, because you just want enough to go inside the lid. But I cut it about 4 inches long just to have some overlap inside, so that it doesn't have a short end. But anyway, I cut it in half because this one is a little bit wide for the top. We are working with a lot smaller version of the hats. For this step, we are going to need to be careful because we are using the glue gun. And what you want to do is you want to take and put some glue right in the inside side of your hat. Then you want to take your ribbon and you want to just start putting that inside where you put the glue. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And what I do is I just keep going around instead of cutting that off, because you're not going to see much of the ribbon anyway, so if it's double layered, it might bring it out a little bit more. And it should look something like this. Got glue strings everywhere. Then your next step is to add the top trim. For this one, I am going to use this. I tried to find some really small trim. This does okay. It's a little brighter than I expected, but I think it makes them look pretty. I am going to try and find some more of a different shade later, and I might use that to finish some of those other hats as well. But you want to put some glue on the top rim and just push the trim down and kind of squeeze it to make it go right along the top edge. of the lid. Then when you get close to the other end over here, you want to take your scissors and cut it off, making sure that you have enough to meet that without overlapping too much, because it's going to start to fray right away. Add a little more glue there, and then carefully press that down onto the glue. And then your next step is to take a rose. This is a handmade rose that I made from ribbon. There are a lot of videos on YouTube that show how to do this. You basically take a piece of ribbon, I fold down the corner, and then fold it over a couple times. Roll it around. And then I usually take and sew a little stitch there to hold that in place. But then you start folding the ribbon down behind itself and then continue to roll. And then you just continue to do that until you get the size of the rose that you want. I didn't include that in this video because it does take a little time, and I knew that decorating was going to be a long process anyway. So the next thing you want to do is you want to put some glue in the bottom of the lid. Take your rose and just set it down in that glue. This rose is a little bit big, so it did hide the ribbon a little bit more than some of the other hats, but that's okay. So your top piece is to the point we want it to be. Next, you're going to work on your middle piece. For this one, you've got a couple options also. On some of ours, we used tulle and just basically cut a circle out and put a little dab of glue in the center and laid that tulle right on top of that. For some of the others, we took a piece of lace and cut it to match the size of the lid. Same as we did the tulle. Just cut it, lay it on top, and then just kind of cut around the edge to make it match the size of the lid. We put a dab of glue in the center of the lid and then put that on to hold that in place. For this one, though, I'm going to use a piece of lace that I have sewn. It's just a strand of lace like this, where I've sewn with a running stitch across the bottom and then pulled the two ends to make it ruffle. And then I sewed it to finish it off in the center. And we're going to use that to lay on the top of this one. So I'm going to take my piece here, add a little dab of glue just in the center, because When you glue the top on, you're going to be adding glue to add the top, so you don't need any other than the center right now to hold that in place. Next, you want to do your bottom. And for this, we are going to use the same kind of ribbon that we used around the rose up here in this top part. So what I've done is I've cut a piece of ribbon about 7 inches long, and we're going to do the same thing that we did with the lace. Just sew it with a running stitch. I probably should have done this off camera also, but if you want more ruffles on the bottom of yours, you can make your ribbon a little bit longer, and having it a little bit longer will add more ruffles. So when you get to the end of the ribbon, I always kind of leave this hanging out a little bit, because sometimes if your ribbon is sheer enough, the knot in the thread will just go on through, and we don't want that to happen. So, but you want to play with your ribbon a little bit till you get it where you need it to be, to where it covers the base but leaves a little bit of the edge sticking out so that you can see the base of the hat, but that this section will not cover it completely up. So we need to bring ours out just a little bit more. Something like this. And then I'm going to take these two ends and I'm going to tie them. But I'm going to be careful not to pull it so tight that it pulls the thread any tighter than what I want it to be for the base. I'm just going to add a couple knots just to have that good and secure. And then I'm going to cut the string, both ends. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the ribbon a little bit more, because you want to straighten it up to where it overlaps just a tiny bit over here where it's cut, and where the ruffles are more evenly spread out. And then take your glue gun and put glue around just the inside, where that inside ribbon will glue down to the base of the hat. And there you have your bottom piece ready to go. It's time to put the pieces of the hat together. So we're going to start with the bottom, and we're going to put glue on the middle section near the edge, but not so close to the edge that the glue seeps out. We're going to glue that down right on top of the ribbon that we just placed there. Make sure your ribbon is sticking out where you can see it. I do want to mention, on the original hat that my daughter got this idea from, they do have a pleated ribbon that goes around the hat that just attaches to the side of the middle section. I tried to do that with a ribbon, but the ribbon I have is way too big. Once you put it on there, either it covers up too much of the base or too much of the side. And I didn't want to cover up all that. If you want to do that, you can do that. The smaller ribbon I had was too tiny, and it was nearly impossible to pleat that way. If you have good hands and young eyes, you might be able to do that with a smaller ribbon. I just cannot do it with my eyesight and my chubby little fingers. So I chose to do the bottom ribbon this way. Your next step is to take your top, add your glue to the bottom of it, and then attach it to that middle section. Try to make sure you get it in the center if you can. And again, you want a little bit of your lace to show. There you have the hat that is semi-decorated at this point. Our next step is to take the bead trim and we're going to place a little bit of glue right up next to the edge of that bottom of the second layer, and we're going to put that bead trim right there in that dab of glue. We're just going to go around the hat with the bead trim, adding a little dab of glue here and there just so that it doesn't try to fall off. When you get back around to the beginning, you want to cut your trim so that it kind of matches up with the end. Add you one more dab of glue and press that trim in there. Now the next thing we want to do is, because we don't want this to be the only gold on there, we want to add some more trim, and we're going to add it first right here, right above the bead trim. So we're going to add a little bit of glue, put the trim there, and just as we did the bead trim, I would add a little glue in a few places going around the hat just to hold that in place. When you get back close to the beginning, I'm going to do the same thing, cut your trim Add just some glue, and then push that trim onto the hat. So now we're going to add the gold trim to the middle section. We're going to do it the same way, just on top of the lace. Make sure that it's doesn't catch the lace and hide the lace. Once again, add glue in a couple spots just to hold it in place. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of glue or a lot of places, as long as it's holding it in place. Just removing some of the strings from the glue. And there's our finished hat. Again, this one is decorated to the max. If you don't want yours decorated this much, you can always skip some of the steps. This one is decorated pretty much the same, except it has the tulle in here instead of a piece of lace. So it's pretty decorated. This one uses the twine instead, so that's always an option too. This one we skipped the gold trim and just had a little piece of gold ribbon up here at the top, and then used the bead trim, and I thought it turned out pretty nice too. So there are a lot of different ways you can do it, and just as a reminder, here are the ones we have done now and the ones we are working on. I will come back and add a picture or a addition to the video to show the other ones when we get those finished. Okay guys, so here's what we have after we got them all finished. I will say that the lids, not all of them are the same. This one is quite a bit taller. I believe it may have came from a cooking oil jug. This one's taller also. There are some that are milk jug lids, some that are Gatorade bottle lids. This one's from a baby food jar that I'd saved a long time ago to put trinkets in, and I didn't need it anymore, so I just used it. So you can use quite a few different kinds of lids with them. We did decorate them all kind of differently from each other. Some have the edging and the beads. This one does not. It just has the beads. This one does not have any beads. So they're all different from each other. This one has beads on each level, as does this one. And the roses in the top, some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. This is the one we used in the demonstration. This one we did add a handle to, the little teacup handle, just to see how it looked. And I think it turned out pretty good. But anyway, as you can see, there are tons of different ways you can decorate them. Just make it however you want to make it. That's all we have for now. I hope this video has inspired you to create something unique. Thank you for joining us on our crafting adventures. I hope y'all have a blessed day. See you later.